Investor's Edge with Gary Kaltbaum. Straight talk about you and your money. Now from the BizTalk studios, here is Gary Kaltbaum.
And welcome once again to Investor's Edge. I'm Gary Kaltbaum, your host. Thanks for being with us today. Glad you're here, ladies and gentlemen. Happy that you are listening. It's Monday. It's July 29th. It's 2024. We certainly hope you all had a good weekend. In case you don't know, this is serious talk on everything that affects you. We used to do markets. And then in the early 2000s, we noticed that the Morlocks started to get in our face more and more every day with debt and deficits and rules and regulations and fees and fines and mandates and giveaways and all kinds of control freakism. So we include them now more than ever, leading us to how we're going to start the show today. Because in the past, the control freaks would at least lie about it and hide it. They don't anymore because they think they're better than you. We'll get to that in a second. If you do not get this radio show in your city, we'll post it at GaryK.com. We'll also post it on our Twitter feed, which is now X. And if you'd like to email us, go ahead at GaryK.com or gkaltbaum at kaltbaum.net. And you can follow us on X. Just put our name in. So every now and then we'll get an email. Gary, talk more about the markets. What you're talking about has nothing to do with blankety blank. And we're trying to tell you everything we talk about has everything to do with that blankety blank. When Joe Biden forgives somebody's student loan, that's our money. They have perfected the con. They have perfected that the slush fund is so damn big that I still remember Neil Cavuto, the great Neil Cavuto, the inspiring Neil Cavuto, the best journalist on earth. Upon 2008, when we didn't give them, we were forced to give them $800 billion to take care of the crooks at the banks because they were destroying the financial system with their fraud. He said to me on TV, trillion's going to be the new normal. Well, he was right. They talk trillions like it's a couple of jelly beans. 100 billion is nothing. It's no big deal. They've created that to where deficits are 2 trillion a year now. And of course, the media say nothing. And of course, none of them could last 1 minute with me in an interview. Well, as I stated for the record, they don't even give a crap anymore. They'll just say anything, propose anything. No number is too high. And you must remember something. Every dollar they spend is our dollars. They don't produce any profits. You got that? And I'm talking to all of you that somehow I don't understand the love of a certain ilk in D.C. And I've never understood, it's a D, I'm just voting D, no matter if they suck or not. It's an R, I'm just voting R, whether they suck or not. Which takes me to one of the worst schnooks. And I don't even know what the word schnook means. But it's certainly not me complimenting that person. It means a fool. But this person's no fool. Because in her time, she became a central banker the head of the central bank. She is now our Treasury Secretary that is supposed to be the defender of our treasure. Her name is Janet Yellen, and may I state up front, anything I say is nothing personal. It's purely business. I'd say it all to her face. She's calling for $78 trillion in financing to fight climate change through the year 2050. Let me repeat that. $78 trillion, $3 trillion a year to fight climate change through the year 2050. Now, whose $78 trillion is that? Oh, it's ours. To fight climate change. What for? What is it going to accomplish? You're going to stop the hurricanes? You can't. You're going to stop the tornadoes? You can't. You're going to stop the heat in the summer? You can't. Can you stop the cold in the winter? You can't. Can you stop fires in California? Well, you could if you stop restricting water. $78 trillion. In order to achieve net zero global carbon emissions, $3 trillion globally in annual financing for the cause, which she says is a top priority for the Biden administration. Well, there is no Biden administration anymore. $3 trillion in new capital. So it was interesting. She did the interview, and what the interesting part about it is, you sit there and you think the journalist would do the job and ask the very simple question, easy question: what are you going to spend it on? Give me one thing you're going to spend it on. Tell me. They couldn't answer the question. And the bottom line is these interviews are set up to where they don't ask the questions. The next question would be, and who's going to pay for it? And the next question should be, so what exactly is that going to accomplish? How is it going to change the climate to make it cooler? Explain. Simple questions, right? Right? Easy questions. And I'm thinking to myself, $3 trillion a year. $3 trillion. Imagine if we actually had that money and put it to good use. Any of you have any potholes in the sidewalks or in the streets where you live? Any of you have bridges that have been there since 1920 that maybe will need a new bridge? Any of you have any homeless in your city, homeless veterans that fought the wars and defended our freedoms, and they're living outside? Any of you have that going on in your city? No, let's fight climate, which is a hoax, of course. You can't change the weather. Superman could, but last I looked, Superman is just a character. We can't change the weather. She should be fired. And I must tell you, if I was president, I would publicly acknowledge her Marxist, socialist, control freakism. The defender of our treasury, $78 trillion to fight a battle that does not need fighting. You want to clean up the pollution? Go ahead. Clean it up. Business and, believe it or not, a little bit of government have done a good job. Remember the smog they had in LA many years ago? You know, there's companies out there that are mining the oceans, getting rid of plastics left and right. You know that, right? Green, we've been going green for a long time. Electric vehicles, well, they're out there. Of course, a lot of people don't want them. So let me explain. These people are legalized crooks. You see, we can't say they're just crooks because that would mean they're doing something illegal. I have to say legalized because they are in power in D.C. But they're schnooks and they're control freaks. And we've got to make sure they're all out of power and get people in there that believe in we the people. That government is fine. Make sure it's good government, efficient and effective government. We'll put a bow tie on this up next. And then lots to cover. I'm Gary. This is the one and only Investor's Edge.
Hi, I'm Gary Kaltbaum, host of the nationally syndicated radio show Investor's Edge. We're not just handsome radio people. We manage investors' money for a living, specializing in fee-based discretionary money management. No big commissions, just a fee on the assets that's managed. We also provide a full range of personalized services, including retirement planning, fixed income, and educational needs, all to assist you in achieving your financial goals. Understanding not all individuals have the same needs, we'll carefully evaluate your personal goals to determine a proper investment strategy. If your current approach to investing is not getting you to where you would like to be, call us to make an appointment for a complimentary portfolio review. The number to call is 888-422-5559. That's 888-422-5559. That's 888-422-5559. Investment advisory services offered through Kaltbaum Capital Management.
It's time to switch on the integrator units and get the brain cells working.
You're listening to
Hey, this promises to be fun.
Investor's Edge
The last bastion of quality programming.
with Gary Kaltbaum.
It doesn't get better than this.
So, Janet Yellen said climate change is literally an existential threat to our nation and to the world. No, Janet Yellen and her ilk are an existential threat to our nation and to the world because they will bankrupt the living crap out of us and use lies and cons to extract our hard-earned dollars that we go to work for every day. See, Janet Yellen has been in the public sector her whole life, and when she left, she was getting $250,000 for speeches from Wall Street. Remember what we tell you about the incestuous relationship between Wall Street and D.C.? They kiss each other's arse because they know they need to curry favor with one another depending on which way they are going. She doesn't give a crap about the climate. She cares about extracting money out of us, just like Marxists do. And they make things up to suit themselves. The nerve of them. Go on video and look up about 18 years ago when that preeminent scientist Al Gore said we had 10 years. Imagine the media kissing the butt of a person who says we have 10 years or else, even though the earth is 4.5 billion years old. And they let him get away with it, and he's worth hundreds of millions of dollars now off of it. I guess he's a smart guy. And then the celebrities that'll stand up. What's this guy? Prince Harry. The newest one, who lives in like a 30,000 square foot house. How much electricity does that use? And tells us how much we have to conserve. or other celebrities that go onto their yachts using a private jet, or the ass clowns at Davos where 500 private jets were parked to meet so they can sit around telling each other and talking to us that we need to conserve. Up yours. And now Janet Yellen, with no shame, I just got to hand it to her. At least she doesn't lie like others. She actually says, I want to give you a financial colonoscopy 24/7 until your wealth is destroyed and our power is solidified in order to fix the climate. Do you know for 7 years we didn't have hurricanes in Florida? They said it was climate change. When we had hurricanes, they said it was climate change. Before that, it was global warming, and then it froze for a couple of years. So they had to change the moniker to climate change and never be wrong. Before global warming, it was global cooling. Go look it up. They told us we're going to have an ice age, and if you disagreed with them, we're idiots. 78 trillion. She has the grapefruits to even mention that number. I got to hand it to her. 3 trillion a year extracted from the people, not from her. Oh, these con artists that have put themselves in this leadership position and have been elected over and over and selected over and over, and they never leave the frickin' stage until they're dead, and in their wake they leave us with now 35 trillion of debt headed. They're now telling us 60, which means 80, and they don't give a crap. And somehow, and I don't get it, this pliant, sycophantic, insane media that kisses the arse of this side. They take sides. The side of proposals where they want to take long-term capital gains from 20 to 45%. So that would disincentivize your holding of assets. They want unrealized capital gains tax. So if you don't sell, you still got to pay a tax, which means you may be forced to sell. On top of all this, they're morons. Wealth taxes. You work your tail off your whole life, you pay local, federal, state tax. If you die, you pay a death tax, and now they want wealth taxes. They hate you. You're a means to the ends. Their power base. 3 trillion a year for climate on top of everything else they're doing. They're thugs. They're thugs. The difference between them and bank robbers is they don't walk into a bank, they own the banks. They regulate the banks. They don't need a gun to go into the banks. They set legislation to do one thing, come after you. And for some reason, I don't get it, nobody wants to do the homework of what they are actually doing because, as I have stated to you, they couldn't get away with it if we actually felt it immediately. If you went, I've said this 100 times to you already. If you went to your bank online today and there was a $300 debit and said for student loans, and you called the bank and they said to you, well, it's for Biden relieving student loans, he couldn't do it. But that's exactly what they're doing through a slush fund and through debt. that they have con artist economists actually saying is okay. They got this New York Times Yutz economists that say debt's okay. Oh, of course, when one side is in power. When the other side is in power, debt's not so good. It's the greatest con game of all time. The greatest bull market in history are these people. And some of these elected officials making $180,000 a year end up being worth $50 million over 20 years, and nobody asks why. You have Yellen Omar having her campaign pay her husband's business $3 million, and they tell you that's not a crime. They tell you that's not even ethically challenged. I rest my case. Serenity now. Markets next. And I'll probably be whining about something else. I'm Gary. This is the one and only Investor's Edge.
Listening to
America is talking.
Investor's Edge.
He's got to be pleased with that. The crowd is just on its feet here. He's a Cinderella boy.
With Gary Kaltbaum.
Comes highly recommended. You're going to feel better if you talk to him.
And welcome once again to Investor's Edge. If somebody played for Janet Yellen and her nincompoop friends the first two segments of this show, she could not defend herself. Now we move on. Quiet market today. Dow was down 50, the S&P was up 4, NASDAQ up 12, NASDAQ 100 up 35, but they opened things hot again. I think the NASDAQ was up 175 or something like that. Then it was down. Let me just state for the record, and I want you to listen carefully. A few tidbits. Hope you don't mind. As you know, we love growth stocks. We love technology stocks. We love growth retail, things like that. We're always looking for evidence of what to do or what not to do. And as we have told you, and we're very careful what we tell you here, because we want to make sure we're full and fair with disclosure. And we also want to be fair about, it's very tough for us knowing people don't listen every day about, if we bought something on Monday, sold it on Tuesday, which we could. But what we try to do is guide you through what we think you should avoid and not avoid, and give you evidence to back that up. And we think we've done a pretty good job. So as you know, we had stated for the record on July 11th, we sold down most of our technology stocks. And that's all we were in. That day we sold our Meta, Microsoft, I think NVIDIA that day, or around there. That was the day it topped. The next Wednesday, we sold Apple and Amazon. Apple was still holding up great. Amazon had broke out, and we just waited to fail, and it did. And that left us with no technology. And every day we're looking for evidence. We're looking for evidence that the worst may be over. First off, let me state for the record, typically when something like that goes into correction, the correction doesn't usually last from the 11th to whatever the date is today, the 29th. It usually lasts longer. And very often you'll see three legs to the downside. But we're in earnings season, anything's possible. And I can tell you 4 stocks this week: Amazon, Apple, Facebook, and Microsoft report. Besides others, those 4 are 20% of the S&P 500, which is insane. Just 4 stocks is 20%. And there are also a lot of the NASDAQ 100. So what we do every day, we know what to scan, and we know where to scan, and we assume we know what an uptrend and a downtrend look like, and assume we have a decent feel of the market having defense. And what do we mean by defense? Well, they stop going down. Duh. It really is as simple as that. You find an area where the stock says enough, and it defends there over a period of time. And then there's other things that can occur. And that is there leadership in the group? Are there breakouts to the upside in the group? Or something like a ServiceNow. Now, you may have not heard of this company, but it is a software company, cloud-based, and it's been a wacky stock. It has made 20% moves up and down, boom, 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 until Thursday of last week when they reported earnings. And their earnings are pretty decent. I've never complained about their earnings, just the trade's crazy. And on Thursday, well, it closed the day before, get this, at 7:31. Hit a high the next day of 850 and closed at 828. $97. Volume heavy. Good stuff. We're always looking for strong reactions to earnings. In a real good bullish phase of a ServiceNow doing that, number one, we know by evidence and study and precedent, it would usually take other stocks along with it, and it kind of sort of hasn't. But more interesting to me is I saw some people I know buying it, and I'm trying to impress upon them, you probably want to be patient because you in case you don't know, we believe 80% of a stock's move is because of the sector. If the sector is not working, it's probably going to be lame or it's going to take time. ServiceNow today, it's down $28 today with an up NASDAQ today. So what we have already is some evidence, just some evidence, that maybe technology still ain't ready. And we also know what good setups look like. You remember January 8th of NVIDIA? That's when the day before on a Friday, we said, boy, this looks about ready. And if it breaks out, that'll be a 5-month breakout. And a 5-month breakout and the number one stock in the market, probably going to be strong, and went up 90%. So the opposite with ServiceNow, down 28 today. And we'll keep paying attention, and there'll be more reports. And what we're going to do is very simple. How are the reactions? Were they strong reactions immediately sold off? Were there weak reactions bought up? Were the reactions big breakouts on volume? Was it the opposite on volume? And we'll know. All I know is today, they opened technology hot, couldn't keep it going, saw a bunch of reversals to the downside, saw some important semiconductor stocks act like crap, and then ServiceNow, which, dang, that was a strong move Thursday, give the market a little bit of a certain finger today. And we'll see if tomorrow's a better day. But I use that today as evidence for me I'm in the right by being patient. When a very strong reaction, and by the way, it's an institutionally favored stock in the past. But when it does that, it just gives me a little bit of a clue that we'll hang, we'll wait and see what comes next. And we'll take our time. So we'll just give you an idea of a little bit of how we go about things, our thinking, and maybe it's up $30 tomorrow. I don't know. Who knows? Maybe it is. We can only deal with the evidence at hand and what the evidence gives us in real time, not tomorrow. And you add up the fact that today, just some crappy action and other big names that we follow, all trading below the 50-day moving average, all have pretty crappy volume patterns, meaning down on heavy volume, up on higher volume. So we're patient. So just to give you an idea, the in-depth stuff we go into, and nothing is ever foolproof, but it just gives us a little bit of an edge and sometimes of a big edge. And we'll see what tomorrow brings. And again, another big earnings week. As we said, 4 stocks are 20% of the S&P, and I'm pretty sure they're like 28% of the NASDAQ 100. And then we'll get reactions like McDonald's. They missed by 10 cents, but the stock was up. Do you know why? Because the stock has crashed over the last year. 6 months. So I just think it's a bounce. And you know what they actually said? Well, kind of sort of forward, our numbers are better because we're charging more. But wait a minute, didn't you do the $5? Oh, but on the other end, we're doing the $5 meal, and that's attracted people. Whatever. All I know is it was up $9 today, helped the Dow a little bit. 9 times, about 50 Dow points, something in there. But in a big downtrend, and we'll avoid it. Helped the restaurant stocks today. They were all green today, but most of them have been toast over the last few weeks. And again, as we go through the earnings this week, just a ton. In the Dow, Procter & Gamble, Microsoft, how about an AMD, a Landstar in the transports, Starbucks, which has been having lots of trouble, Boeing in the Dow, you know about their trouble, Garmin, Generac. You know what they do, right? If you have hurricanes. Marriott and the hotels, ARM Holdings, an important semiconductor, which, by the way, broke the 50-day to the downside today on volume. Lam Research, Facebook, I don't know why they changed their name to Meta. eBay, Qualcomm, MasterCard, Alibaba. Love that name. What a great name. Regeneron Pharmaceuticals, Square, Apple and Amazon will be Thursday after the close. That'll be interesting. DraftKings, and up next, Trump, Bitcoin. What was his mistake? This is the one and only Investor's Edge.
You're listening to
What are we waiting for?
Well, what are you waiting for?
1, 2, ready, go.
Action!
Investor's Edge with Gary Kaltbaum.
In the big news, first off, let me state for the record, the media is doing exactly what I told you they would do. They are lying, deceiving, blacking out, covering up anything dumb, stupid, crappy on one side of the aisle running for president. It's almost a comedy act at this point. You have social media. If you put in certain words on social media, they don't show up anymore. Like Donald Trump assassination attempt doesn't even show up. And for the record, I'm no fan of either. But since the media is doing the job on him, I don't really have nothing to add. So the fix is in. They're going to do their darndest. They are raising her up, even though she couldn't get 1% in the primary. They are covering up for her. Oh, she was not the border czar? My arse, she wasn't the border czar. Just amazing to watch. The record of her, Pete Buttigieg was out this weekend, and he's pretty funny. Stand-up comedy has nothing on him. And then there's Trump. Mistake. So we all love being popular, right? We all love feeling important, right? You know what I taught my kids? One of the 10 things I taught them? Make everyone feel important, whether they're the janitor of a building or the CEO of the building. I taught them that. Treat everybody as they're important. Also, people love hearing their name. Call them by their name. Waiters and waitresses, their name. People love hearing their name. I don't know if you know that. Everybody wants to feel important. And man, what a great thing to be a Donald Trump that was invited to the Bitcoin conference in front of, I think, thousands of people that are so happy with him because he is engaged in the Bitcoin and the crypto thingamabob. My commentary is not on Bitcoin. My commentary is on Trump and just a huge mistake. Imagine if I'm doing a little seminar or something and a lot of people show up. You know, for me, 8 people's a lot. And I say, Beyond Meat's going to the moon. Or Home Depot is going to the moon. Or First Solar's going to the moon. Or gold is going to the moon. Which, by the way, I just stopped out of with a small loss. What if I did that and they drop 50%? You think I'd be popular? Doubt it. People care about their wallets. They care about their money. And I'm pretty darn sure President Trump, and I guess we call exes presidents, right? President Trump meant well. I'm 100% sure. You see, when I buy a stock, I'm betting it's going higher. I mean well. I mean well. I want it to work out. So no doubt in my mind he had nothing but the best intention. But he went in front of everybody, and I'm no Donald Trump. So when I talk to you, or if I have an audience, this is not being presented on every news channel or every newspaper around the globe. What Donald Trump says is in every newspaper around the globe, and due to this crypto thing is a big thing around the globe, he is now on record that Bitcoin's going to the moon. What if Bitcoin drops 80% like it did in the last bear market from here? Anybody want to answer that question? What happens to Trump's popularity? You think it goes up or goes down? What happens to Trump voters? Let's just say for the record, Bitcoin drops 25% before the election. What do you think? Think you'll lose some voters? You know, people do vote with their wallets. And due to the fact Bitcoin has no earnings and no sales, we know that. And is just an inanimate object. What is it? It's an asset class now. That's all it is. And they're telling us it's based on, well, there's no trust in government. Okay, I'm certainly on with that. And that people maybe not have trust in the dollar, so they want to go elsewhere. There's a possibility there. And maybe it goes to 1.5 million like that, what's her face, that's down 70% over the last 3.5 years and still gets interviewed. Maybe it does that. But everything we do here is based on erring on the side of caution, yet President Trump went out and said he's going to the moon. If I was advisor, you know what I tell him, right? Shut up. Do not say it's going to the moon. Say you hope it goes to the moon. You say it could, hopefully it goes higher because of. He's now on record on an inanimate object. And in case you do not know, from November of 21 down to November of 22, the GBTC that represents Bitcoin went from $55 down to $7.50. My one wish I've said to you before, if Trump wins, that he has good policies and, more importantly, discipline. A clear lack of discipline in stating Bitcoin's going to the moon. I hope he's right. And I mean that. I hope he's right. You all have a great evening. Drive carefully. Say hello to Janet Yellen if you see her. And when you get home, do like we do. Quite simple. Make sure you hug your family. Make sure you hug your children. They will feel better. You will feel better. I promise. Have a great one, everybody. Thanks for joining. Serenity now. Same time tomorrow. Peace out.
This has been Investor's Edge with Gary Kaltbaum on BizTalk. To listen to past episodes or to get in contact with Gary, go to GaryK.com. That's GaryK.com.